women should trust themselves, especially as a mom. And there will never be a moment that it will feel fully comfortable if you're in this big shift. That will come when you decide to walk and when you're a little further on the road. But decide that you will walk with your fear, that you decide with the discomfort, that you walk with the discomfort, with all the things, and say to yourself that you can trust yourself, that you are safe in feeling.
Welcome to the Unschooling Lifestyle, the podcast that challenges conventional education and invites families to redefine success on their own terms. If you're ready to break free from outdated systems and embrace a life of curiosity, connection, and true freedom, this is your space. Join us as we explore real stories, practical insights, and inspiring conversations that empower you to trust your instincts, partner with your children, and take the path of least resistance toward the life you've always dreamed of. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Unschooling Lifestyle. On today's episode, we have Stahl with us, and I'm so excited to talk to her about money. Hi, Cindy. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. On your own words, what do
Mhm.
you do? And a little bit about your background, your business. What do you do right now?
I worked a couple of years in marketing and sales before I started my business. But I always wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be paid to write and live in my own energy. And I felt like I want to do something with helping women heal their heart. That's how I started. And then after 1.5 years, I noticed that I attracted entrepreneurs, often entrepreneurs that were a lot further ahead than I was, because I was just mini Cindy at the time. I was just a year in business and was pregnant in that year and had a baby and all of the things.
Yes.
Yeah, so I started working with entrepreneurs and I called myself a business healer.
Okay.
And more, I got called myself to work with sexual energy for myself, to heal my sexual trauma and that I had as a child. And then more and more women started to show up in my business as well when I healed, the first layers, because I think sexual trauma is like, especially as a child, I think it's one of the deepest traumas regarding safety and so if I should say it really briefly, I think it's women's empowerment, healing, money. It's always a topic. I often attract mothers in business, always intuitive women. And then women, 99% of the time, will come for their business. But the work that I do with them is often in feminine energy, healing of sexual trauma, love and relationship, or really reclaiming their power after something intense has happened. And this can be anything. It can also be, well, in a way, it can also be something really good, like having a baby and then have to come back into business, or having been a coach in this industry, in that niche for so many years, and then passion says, but hey, this is not what we really need to do in this season in our lives. We need to pivot the business and then guide them really in the highest alignment. I think maybe that's the biggest thing of my business, is that truth is my thing. If it's not the highest alignment, then it's nothing.
Oh,
So I
I
think
love
if I should say it in 2 words, it's highest alignment.
I love that so much though, because I feel like highest alignment, I think it comes in different ways or from different branches of life. Like for me, education transforming into unschooling and self-directed education kind of brought me into this container of coming back to that highest alignment. When we come back into this highest alignment, there's always that need to go back to childhood.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the common patterns that you see as you work with people that come from the early childhood that we have to shift to go into this new highest alignment?
It all has to do with safety within, and yeah, we can say sexual abuse, but You also have violence in childhood, but you also have energetic abuse. And energetic abuse can be as easy, so to say, as a child who felt that it had to be in that and that position, where it's not just a child, but for example, parents were divorced and dad left, and the child has to decide, not has to, decides to stand next to the mom energetically, and then it loses its own highest aligned path. And I think that's, yeah, the trauma, I think you can't prevent as parents. I think even
Yeah,
you, we
we
cause
talked
our
about that. Yes.
children trauma. We can't not do it. But I
Yes.
think the privilege that we have and that we should honor is that we have to correct it as much as possible in this moment now, and not like, hey, when a child is 25 years old and then it goes to whatever and then it comes to you. I think a lot of the stuff we can solve ourselves.
Yes, I definitely, that has been one of my biggest lessons, to learn to recognize it, to see my mistake and go back and apologize and said, I did this. I'm sorry that I did that. Yes. And the validation, I feel like a lot of the things that I went through, that I worked through, like recently, was not necessarily about what happened, but about the validation that I didn't receive back then. And then I had to like kind of work through it. Uh,
Hmm.
and as far as money, because as an unschooling family, and I know you guys world school, you were traveling for about a year, right? In order to
Hmm.
kind of do alternative education back in the Netherlands, right?
Hmm.
When you're in this life, you learn to do things differently as far as education and parenting, but then we also have to do things different as far as business and how we earned our money. What do you see as far as the patterns for money that we carry from childhood that prevent us from stepping out into what we really want to do, the business you want to create, the money that you want to make?
Yeah, I think the first and most easiest thing is, what did you take as truth from your father and your mother? What were the things that they said, or what were the choices that they didn't make? If I look at my dad always wanted to start his own business and tried 3 times, but never finished it, never really launched a business. Or my mom always used to say, like, yeah, rich people, I don't like rich people. Look at them, da 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 da, that kind of stuff. And these are the things. Or in the Netherlands, you have so many of these typical sentences with money, that they say that money doesn't grow on trees, money doesn't do this, money doesn't do that. And that's all like conditioning, conditioning, conditioning. And I think if I look at myself and for my clients, the biggest thing, at least once I started my business, was, am I really allowed to receive my money this easy?
Yeah.
Because after working 40, 50, sometimes 60 hours in corporate, and then being in my own energy, being in my own home, it felt like really big. And when I started, I couldn't let myself receive more than what I earned in corporate. And I truly believe that each and every one of us can earn more. The more you allow yourself to be in that highest alignment and really follow your soul's path, you will only earn more money instead of less, because you already have freedom, because you are already privileged to be at home with your children or whatever. It's not like that.
Yes, it feels like we put the conditioning builds this box around our own energy, and we don't really see the box all the time. Like I feel like you
Hmm.
you live within it, but you don't really see it all the time.
Hmm.
And then once you start like feeling the walls, and you're like, oh, well, what is this wall? What conditioning do I have on this side that prevents me from moving to the right, to the left, or up, or in different directions? But what were the tools that kind of help you at first, as you were starting your business, to kind of get rid of this conditioning and open that expansion to receive the money that you were looking for?
Yeah, at the beginning, I did a lot of mindset. I
Hmm.
think that was the biggest part at the beginning. And we'll do all these affirmations. And then I started to notice myself. Like, it was almost like standing in front of the mirror and saying, oh, I really love my body. And then my mind thought, yeah, but you have a big ass, that kind of stuff. And I started to notice that with money. And I thought, hey, but I write down this and I hear or feel or whatever that, and I felt it in my body. And I think the more
Yes.
we work with our body and really listen and not just journal, but also not just journal and listen to the body. And then if life asks you to decide or take action and then not do it, it's a combination of all the things. And I think the most important thing is deciding.
Mm,
Women especially keep waiting for signs and white feathers or whatever has to come their way to confirm that you're almost allowed from the universe or God or something else that says, yeah, okay, you can do this. But your desires are planted into your heart, and the moment that you can feel them, it's true. And if you decide to be in for the long run and that it will happen no matter what, then you already decided. And if you know that you commit for the long run, it will happen no matter what, then you have the safety. Because
mhm.
I've always felt, and that's why I I have this belief that sometimes triggers people, but I see it with my clients that it works. I feel this deep trust in life. And I think in this coaching industry, it's almost popular to believe that at every level there will be a new money trigger or whatever. There will always be money triggers. You will always have to heal something.
Yes.
But what if that was also something that someone once said? And I think we can have this core abundance feeling, and then there can still be something. But it's, yeah, I've coached women who had 100K in their bank account and didn't feel safety. And I had women like me I had €1, 26 cents at the beginning of the month with a
Mm.
small child, and I was challenged to believe in abundance. And it was like this intuitive voice that said, but you have to feel abundance now. If you can't feel it now, then you will always sell from lack or pulling, or it will not be, yeah, how do you say it? Then it will be colored with your lack of trust of money.
Yes, it's like the relationship that you have with money, though. And I felt that
Yeah.
too, when my childhood was, my mom was always struggling with credit card debt because of my dad. And there was always this fear of not having enough. And I've
Hmm.
noticed that I kind of carry into my own life that if I didn't have a certain amount, like I didn't feel safe. And I noticed how emotionally and how vibrational once I felt safe, and then I began this relationship that with money that wasn't really from lack, from scarcity per se. I was more like open and having this dance almost that it was okay to receive the money. But I probably didn't get there, and I'm probably still like working on it in a way. And for your clients, journey that they go through as far as reclaiming that relationship with money for the highest alignment.
Yeah, I work a lot with sexual energy and with womb healing, but
Yes,
also listening to your yoni, to your pussy, whatever words resonate with the one who's listening.
I love it.
But really be in your feminine energy and know that when your heart is open and you listen to your yoni, to your pussy, and you allow yourself to be activated by that energy and have your heart open, because I think that's a really important one as
Mhm.
well, then you're in total magic, because that's what they separated women from like ages ago with witch hunting and all of this stuff. Yeah, that men, other women did to women. And then
Yes.
that's all in our conditioning and all of the things. But if we decide that we can be fully feminine, fully sexual, and sexual, sometimes people think that I am like complete orgasmic, but I think I'm a mom. I have, well, he's not officially a baby. He's a little over a year, but I'm not like sexual all day. But sexual energy is a state of being, you know?
Yes.
Art is sexual energy. It's music is sexual energy. It's aliveness. And I think if you are truly listening to our passion, then you're more alive and you can be that and be a conscious mom and be in business. And the more you let yourself flow through all, I think, especially for moms, that's an important one. Money gets to be easy. Sometimes it can be harder. You see, especially when women pivot. When I started to write more and create my oracle decks, I had to let go, at least that was my choice. That was how I was led to let go of a lot of reoccurring income
Okay.
and then a lot of unsafety, because I needed time, the space, and also when we were traveling. But I also discovered that you are busy in your business with so many hours, but how efficient are you? I
Hmm.
think especially as moms, for children, we can do 20 things at a time. But how efficient are you in your business when you truly start working with the energetics and then just do that one thing and pour all your energy in it and really let it bloom and let it flow and trust the seasons, trust your own season throughout the day, trust your own cycle, all of that stuff. And I think a lot of women carry sexual trauma in
Yeah.
one way or another,
Yes.
even if it's just from society and conditioning.
Hmm.
But I think if a woman is honest, if you are truly in your sexual energy, you either will feel like a slut or you will feel unsafe. It's some kind of conditioning. You see it
Yes.
with Mary Magdalene that people talk a lot about. It's either this or that. There is
Hmm.
nothing in between. And we
Yes.
are in between. We have so many aspects. And the more that we let ourselves have all of that, the more easily money can flow.
Yes, that's beautiful, though. I love what you said about letting go because we're often bombarded with the need to feel productive, but also to completely run ourselves to the ground. It's so scary to let go because then society is going to say, well, you're lazy or you're not doing this enough. But opening the space for their energy, it really allows for more abundance to come through at some point. Now, how do you balance your work with your what does a day in your life looks like as far as alternative education, also your business, and are you guys traveling at the moment?
No, this is like the first time in months that
Oh
we
yeah.
have a more stable home,
Yes.
which is really good for my nervous system. But
Yeah.
traveling was good to deepen that as well. But when we were traveling, I really learned that you don't need so much time. My husband and I were really intentional with our time. But I learned that when my oldest was like really young and I was alone with him and I had to build my business. When I left my partner at that time, I only earned 1,500 euros a month. So that was like really low to be alone with a child. So I learned relatively quickly to yeah, be the mom and also be the CEO and not make that separate again. And I think, especially with my oldest, the youngest is like a little too young to understand. He knows that, yeah, I'm not the typical mom, I think, but he and I flow so well because that's what we do. I don't have this child who is like, mommy, mommy, mommy. Some of these moms get prizes because they never can work in their own space. I've learned him relatively young that I have my own space, he has his own space, and there is time for us. But I don't have to put on this typical hat and say, oh, mommy now has the working hat or whatever it is that sometimes you see moms do. He just knows. And I'm really intentional with that, but also intentional with the rest of the time. I know that when I have this block of an hour, that's what I have to do.
Yes.
And I don't tell myself, oh yeah, I don't feel like it now, or I'm not high five, or whatever. No, it's that block, and that's the discomfort that I choose. It's almost like I don't know what it's in English, but it's like you have to choose some kind of discomfort, and this is the discomfort, if it's a discomfort, but for me it works, so I don't feel like it. To me, it doesn't feel like that anymore. I think the only discomfort is that I have to do it in that hour then. But I'm really intentional with my time. I'm intentional with my clients. I'm intentional with my phone. I'm intentional with WhatsApp from friends. I'm intentional with I think I'm really intentional. And I
Hmm.
think that's the biggest thing. And then let yourself flow
Yes.
and let yourself be you and don't think that you have to be a certain kind of woman to be an amazing mom. I
Mhm.
try to combine the things as much as I can. And sometimes I have my laptop on the kitchen table and my son is doing his thing and I'm doing my thing, and we are sitting next to each other, it flows. But it was a decision. But I also didn't want to bring him everywhere just so that I could work. I wanted to be the mom who is there when she needs to, but also who is present. I had a
Yeah.
mom who was always home and she was there, but like, I don't know, we were sitting at the same table, but yeah, I think that was it. That
Yes.
covers the story. And I didn't want that, and I wanted him to also know that the life that we choose is sometimes different than from other
Mhm.
people, but that we choose this and that he gets to make his own decisions as well. For example, with school, and follow him in that thing. We really look at what works for our family. How does our day look? What does my husband have for appointments? What do I have? And then we make a plan for the day. We have a plan for the week, but at the beginning of the day, after breakfast, that we have these things that we never skip as a family. And that's how it works. And we decide, this is what I do, this is what you do, this when you are with the children, this is when we are together with the four of us. And for us, it works. And of course, there are moments that you think, why did I choose this? Why can't my child be in school? That's what I thought in the beginning, because it wasn't like, I've always felt I don't want to bring him to school, but in the Netherlands, it's not as easy as in some
Yes.
other countries in the world. So it was like, how am I even able to do this, to follow my heart? So it was quite a journey, but now we do it. And
Yes.
ourselves to make mistakes and to sometimes, yeah, we said that in your episode on my podcast, that to allow yourself to have your moment when it's really too intense, and to step out of the situation and say, well, mommy needs some time now. It's just me.
Yes.
Hey there, I'm Anthony, and I'm excited to tell you all about the Alternative Education Resource Organization conference this year in New Hampshire. It's all about self-directed education where kids can learn in ways that make sense to us. At the Aero Conference, families can be awesome advocates and connect with others who believe learning should be fun. There will be games, workshops, and new friends to make. So bring your whole family and join us. Let's support our unique learning adventures together. You can register at www.aeroconference.org. See you there.
So there's a few things that stood out, like how you say you're very intentional with your time. I find that when you are in that mindset, being intentional of what your priorities are, things do flow with ease. They're not always easy, like you say, there's some things that kind of just you have to navigate, but there is a level of ease once your priorities are set straight and there is intentionality behind everything that you do. And I love that so much because like you, I had a mom. My mom stayed home too, but not because she was home. I don't, and she'll probably be like, well, I was there, but I never really felt connected. And that is something that I struggle and I have worked through my entire life. And as you move forward into your journey, what are the programs that are you most excited to work on right now to help other women reclaim this highest alignment for themselves?
I've created so many online programs throughout the years, and I always wanted to be a writer. And then I got pregnant of my daughter, and I really felt like you have to step into the writer now. And then she was still born, and it was like this reality check. Like, I had that before, like, okay, Sin, life can be over tomorrow, we always think that we have ages to live, and then I just decided this is what I wanted to do. And of course, we had to grieve, but it
Hmm.
really helped me to open my heart even more. And with that, all the rest of the bullshit fell away. And I think that's the
Ah.
biggest thing. So now after 2 years, it's been like 2 years, and now it feels, I recently launched the Pussy Oracle, my Oracle deck, and this is what I want to do. I'm working on a children's book, which will launch somewhere in the summer. I will launch a new Oracle deck that's fully focused on healing. And I have books that I want to write, and I always wanted to write them.
Mm-hmm.
And now it feels like, yeah, and I've been in business for like the coach for 8 years, and I've created this
Wow.
test. I have done it all. It feels like that. I've had group programs. I have so many online programs. I've coached women internationally. I've coached women in the Netherlands, online, offline. There were so many things. And now it's like, but this is what I want to do almost. It's as if I became a coach, which was amazing, and my soul wants to do something else. And this is what I want to do. So I have many programs that people can join and people can still buy them, and people still do. And I'm doing one live now, but I'm not going to launch as much anymore.
Yeah.
And this feels really peaceful. I noticed it also with my children that I think it's almost like a different energy when I'm the rider or when I'm the coach. And it's not like I'm a bad coach or it's totally not like that. But I so feel the difference in being the open channel and really devote myself to whatever the entity of that project is and be really intentional, really focused. And everything is in transmission. That's what I feel. So I'm really intentional with it's a physical product. People get it in their hands. How do I want people to feel when they open it? How do I want people to feel when they work with it? All of these things. And that's why I only allow the max of 4, 5 clients, and 5 is like max. I'm not at that at this moment, and I don't know if I want to, but that's what I allow myself to have as one-on-one clients. This works for me now
Yes.
in this season.
Thank you for sharing that. I feel like as a projector, you have a beautiful perspective of at large, like into
Mhm.
where we're moving as far as some of the shifts in society with education, money, the business, because you're very intuitive. So I'm curious.
Yeah, I recently talked about this with my husband, and he reminded me of something that I channeled 2 years ago, and he said, "Well, you see this now," and I think that's what I always have. You channel something that comes so early, and I think that the most important element is like what isn't in the highest alignment, what is on this rotten foundation or like lack foundation or whatever, it will fall. And it doesn't matter if this is a business that has 5K months or 5 million months, it will fall one way or another. Or to me, it feels like energetic abuse. I think after my daughter died, all these veils have
Yes.
been lifted and I can feel it. And that's something that I truly believe that will fall. It's not just the government or school systems or whatever. It's in our own home, it's in our own business, it's in all the systems. And people have to look at it. And if you don't, that's okay too. I've been in a mastermind where I felt so many dark energies that I couldn't be in the calls anymore. That was like too much. And I think all of those things, the more intuitive women get and really allow them to, and I think especially when you do these alternative things with schooling, you have to be really intentional with your energy because it's in your home, and the peace in your home is the most important thing. And no money is worth that energy.
Correct.
It's not worth it. And the moment you decide that is the moment money can show up in more loving ways for you, for your family, because I truly believe it's not about us. I think we are the generation that is here for the next generations. And of course, we can have an amazing life and enjoy it and all the things. But we are here for the next generation. And I think that's more and more of that will fall because after 2027, I think the children that come in that timing, they can't be and function like us.
Yes.
It has to be energetic. Yeah, how do you say that? Like 100%, it has to be truth energy. And if it's not, I almost want to say they can't be here, or it feels like that, It has to be, it will be more and more about energy. And sometimes this can feel scary to people because all of the things that used to work are not working anymore. And I
Correct.
think if you're on this path, then you can do because I've been schooled in marketing and sales so much, like in education and then in so many years in business, I could do all the tricks. But I know for sure that they won't work anymore. So, and I can't because I feel them in my own heart. You know, it hurts me. And that's what I see with my clients. Then people will show up, but then still I hurt myself. And
Yes.
no money is worth that. And I think that's the biggest shift that
Mhm.
we have to make as intuitive women.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I mean, so many yeses there, especially when you said energetic abuse and no money, it's worth your peace, your energy. But, when I started back in 2020 during the pandemic, which was a big shift for us, it kind of opened different
Mm-hmm.
doors. I felt like I had the time to dive into this. It was easier, right? I was eased into the philosophy of unschooling. I was eased into world schooling. I was eased into human design and the experiment. But I feel like now people are being pushed into recognizing that they have energetic abuse from other people, from other systems, and they're just going to have to either say, no, I'm not okay with this, and kind of jump to the other side and work through it. Do you have any tips for people that are being pushed into it so fast and with no time almost to kind of see what's happening? Yes.
I think it's always like that. Maybe for some it isn't, but I think it's the
Yeah.
chaos that creation wants. You know, it's like these energies that are present. And yeah, if it comes from that side, let's say chaos, and it goes too fast and it's painful, or it's like full in the face. But that's how you see it. And when sometimes it has to be almost like painful or really confronting
Yes.
to open the heart in that way if it has been closed or that you were blocked in your vision or whatever, and then it's there. And I think the most important thing is to tell yourself that that chaos, don't label it as bad, but label it as the night before creation, yeah, uncovers itself. When you start to see all the things, it's the chaos that you need. It's almost like you need the wind and you need the rain and you need all the things. And in nature we don't question it, but now we are the humans. Oh, it's too much. And I think each and every one of us has
I
these
love it.
too much was my thing. I always said, oh, it's too much. It feels like too much. Too much. Too much. It was always too much. That was almost like my red flag for myself. Like, okay, stop it. This is your conditioning and it's not too much. It's not too much. This is exactly how it should be. And if you let yourself experience the too muchness or the intensity of that moment, really let it be present, open your heart and don't close it off, because people close it off. That's what I felt in grief. Like, it's so subtle, but we close it off. And if we keep it open at the moments when it's like almost like the biggest challenge, and this fear is there, but after 60 seconds, 90 seconds, that's the max. And then it falls away. And then love comes in and it shifts. And you have to almost, that's what I always tell myself, stop yourself half sentence. You don't have to finish every sentence that the mind wants to bring up. And do that in your home, you know, trust your husband when, especially the masculine, trust him when you're in your family and like, okay, stop. You know, boundary here, please. This is like you're in, go do whatever it is that you have to do, but you're not in alignment. I don't know what you're doing here, but this is not alignment.
Oh
Okay.
my
If
God, you're
you
so funny. I love your voice. Like it's so soft, and then it's just so like it just kind of brings out that like, oh yeah, she's right. I love that. I love that. But it is so true though. The chaos, it's an opening. It's definitely a door into something deeper for sure.
Yeah, and I really think that women should trust themselves, especially as a mom. And there will never be a moment that it will feel fully comfortable if you're in this big shift. That will come when you decide to walk and when you're a little further on the road. But decide that you will walk with your fear, that you decide with the discomfort, that you walk with the discomfort, with all the things, and say to yourself that you can trust yourself, that you are safe in feeling. Because as you said, a lot of us had, especially moms who were not emotionally present, even though I truly believe they wanted to be.
Yes.
But it was different. And it was different in what our children need. And
Mhm.
that's why we have to feel the fullness of like all the generations at the same time. And that's when it shifts. And you're
Yes.
feeling all the things.
That's something that I learned because I was always in the victim mindset with in the relationship with my mom. And I'm like, I know if she would have known different, I know she would have done different. I knew that I had to dive a lot deeper and then shift that mindset. Like you said, I felt like I was also doing like, oh, it's just too much, too much, too much. And I'm like, stop it. Like you're responsible. So I'm like responsible. I can't blame the whole world for it. So I had to do the work on that. But it's the biggest gift that my children have given me to be able to evolve here because all of my emotions and me are have it's like two different people. Are there any words of wisdom for for new moms out there? I feel like just yesterday I was talking to someone about they were struggling with sleep, and I feel like we're still so conditioned about what motherhood should be like, should look like, and how I don't know how we just want to please everyone, have the
Mm.
perfect child that sleeps, have the perfect house, have the perfect business, have all this perfection, but it comes at an expense for ourselves, and it comes at the expense of our emotions, it comes at the expense of our own intuition. Half the time we listen to that, but we don't always follow it. We know it's there, but we just don't always follow it for the conditioning that we have been through. What are your words of wisdom for moms, new moms, and all moms that have been in this journey and they're just tired of not feeling in alignment with themselves?
Yeah, let yourself be the mom that you want to be. I think that's the biggest thing. Don't look at other moms because that's
Yeah.
what we see with my clients, that they believe that there is some kind of perfection, and there is not. Allow
Hmm.
yourself to make mistakes. Allow yourself to say sorry. Your child understands that. You can explain, and you can explain at their level, but you're allowed to fuck up at moments. It's okay. Yeah, and create. Sometimes people say, yeah, but for you it's different. But I think, but it wasn't. I was on my own when Finn was like 1.5, and that was, I decided that I wanted this life, and that because it was, everyone said you have to go back to corporate, and I didn't want to be the mom like that. And I always believe like I want to be the embodiment. I don't want my child when he has Facebook later or whatever and then thinks my mom says this, and at home it's like that. My mom places this quote on Instagram, and but this is our home. And I always thought, no, this is who I want to be. So this is who I let myself become. And there is like this desire that attracts. And I always think like, and this is my life, and how do I match these two? And I don't lose myself in like the golden image that I can't have it all, but I make sure it melts with my life, and how can we create our own version of that, but I trust the desire that comes. And I always believe like open your heart. I think it's one of the most difficult things to do for us in some moments, but the medicine of the heart is like so beautiful, and it's so easy. And because it's so easy, that's why we tend to forget, because our ego wants difficult things, wants practices, new practices, all these things. But when you open your heart and really let you be there and connect with your child from heart to heart, also not in, sometimes they can be so intense, and then connect heart to heart, and then that's the energy that will talk, and then it's okay. But most of all, let yourself be the mom that you want to be. Stop people pleasing. Stop worrying about your mother-in-law or your friend across the street or whatever. Be the mom you want to be. Stand strong in that no matter what, and stand for your child, because I believe that our children lead the way. And this can be uncomfortable, like really uncomfortable sometimes, especially with my 1-3 generator. It's like uncomfortable sometimes, but trust, they are children. They will lead the way, and you are the lioness, and you can do all the things.
That's
Hmm.
so beautiful.
Thank you.
I wanted to close with this question, but then you said so many things in your last statement. But one of the things that stood out, it was like how our children will see our social media persona versus the person that was in their life. How you were one person in social media, but yet your experience as a child in that household might be completely different when the two do not match each other.
Yeah,
Like,
that's not okay. I think that's the biggest no to me.
yes, definitely though, because we're used to back in the beginning of homeschooling for us, like I used to get caught up in this like perfect Instagram accounts, of the home of the children, like writing on the table and like reading a book and just like being all happy. And I'm like, my life isn't like that. Like,
Yeah.
what is wrong with me? But then I noticed, I was like, oh, it's not supposed to be like that. And it took a while for the whole social media like effect to not compare myself to those accounts or to what my life was like. And I'm like, oh, okay. And now I try to be more honest. So I feel like people on social media sometimes are honest about the chaos and about
Mhm.
just opening your heart and not wanting to make it hard. Like it's not meant to be hard either. I believe.
Yeah, and that's okay. I think that's life. Nothing in nature is without challenges.
Yes.
It's okay.
Oh my goodness. Cindy, thank you so much for all
Yeah,
of your
thank you so much.
wisdom. How can people connect with you?
Yeah, I have my own podcast. You can look me up on Instagram or Facebook. Go to my website, cindystal.com. There you can see all the socials as well. And yeah, just just follow the energy, I think. I think if my story touches you in one way or another, touches your heart, then trust whatever wants to unveil from there. And if you want to send a message, you're always happy to do so. And yeah, everything else will unfold from there, I think.
Yes, it's beautiful. We will have all of Cindy's socials on the show notes and for you to connect with her and follow her podcast and on her Instagram and all of her accounts. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. We really appreciate it. Please remember that your time is precious. I hope you're making it count. Thank you so much, Cindy.
Thank you for having me.